What's going on, everybody? We're getting live now. Finally, back at it. Oh my gosh! Here we go. Here we go. Um, Last weekend I was a no call, no show. Good lord, what happened to me there? That was pretty ridiculous. Um, no call, no show, but I got a pretty good story about that one. I'll tell you that here in a little bit once people get hopped on in. How is everybody going on? What's going on? Let's see. Stuart Deadman. Good evening. Hope you are having a great day too, Stuart. Good evening. Ed T, what's up? Charles Poosh, how are you? Some night we have to have you on here. Some night we definitely have to have you on here and talk some tractor pulling, talk some performance stuff, all good sorts of stuff. Definitely. Actually, I got something that may hit kind of close home to you here. The Pro Max kit. I was working on a 2005 Duramax and a 5500. Bought the Pro Max kit from out of Pennsylvania there. Worked out phenomenal other than the back passenger side bolt for the top. I had to jack the transmission up to get to it. Hey, Murray, what's up? How you doing? Bubba Ayers, how are you? Still trying to figure out the headlight situation, Bubba. It's nuts. I don't even know where to go with it. I got a kind of a different setup I'm going to try, see what happens. AgTech 45, how is the Saskatchewan man doing tonight? Did you get stuck again in the snow? Just curious. A. Murray, working this weekend. Well, that's not fun. Finally get to watch it live. Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. Good evening, everyone. Bill Beckett. Anytime. Yeah, any Saturday that you're free, let me know. It'd be awesome to have you on and just chat. And these guys are kind of tool nuts, and we'll go from there. Yeah, it has been a while. So last Saturday, I went out to Grand Rapids for a kind of a get together deal. And Charles, all I need is your email, and I can send it to you right now. We can chat it up. Let's see here. Just send me a text to your or a message somehow of your I think I got your phone number here. Just send me a email to send me an email to the heavy wrench at gmail.com, all one word, and I can reply to you and get you set up. Got new tires. The truck should be good now, hopefully. You think it was the tires, not the 10 inches of snow or whatever you were driving through? Yeah, I hope Kentucky Tech is doing all right. I haven't heard from or reached out in probably 3-4 days now since I've talked to him. But everybody's saying hi to Bill, or AgTech saying hi to Bill. But yeah, it's been pretty good. But yeah, so Bubba saying hi to AgTech. So the Pro Max kit, phenomenal kit. They do. I will tell you this: they're pricey, but perfect drilling on that aluminum head. It was pretty amazing, actually. I've heard they're phenomenal kits, but never tried them myself, and definitely worth it. They also make one that is completely adjustable. It's like 14 inches long. So for like your 3406, your N14s, your ISX, all that, 6068 John Deere's, anything that's in line, you could totally set it up so you have the jig and then move it around and do what you got to do. So I'm definitely interested in that one for sure. So that might be my next purchase when it comes to that. But it is coffee time. Let's see here. Let's do this real quick here. Copy. Do boom. Paste. Sent. You'll have a link right there, Charles. So we're gonna have Charles Poosh on tonight. Maybe we'll talk about some tractor pulling, some all sorts of cool stuff. Truck pulling. Who knows where he's been, what he's been up to. He's a pretty phenomenal guy to chat with. Let's see here. Old Time Welders in the house. Hey, Bubba. Did you get a deer? Oh, boy. Sent. Sweet. Yeah, it's been a while, Tone. How you been? How's life in Cali? Today, I think we had some Cali weather here. It was like 51 degrees. I walked out to the mailbox in my T-shirt and was not cold for sure. Hey, Tone. Are you ready for Christmas? I think so. I got a little bit more shopping to do. You know. I got a big dough sitting in my recliner eating deer sausage. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, for sure. That should have sent, so that should be good. We'll have a guest on tonight, 21 in the chat. What else was I going to tell you guys about? Oh, I bought a new light from O'Reilly's, and actually it was pretty decent. Are you ready? Are you good to go, Charles? Thumbs up. Good to go? All right, I'll bring you on. Well, here we have Charles. Oh, I don't have audio. Why don't I have audio? Oh, I know why. Do I have my headphones plugged in? No. Let's see. Let's check my camera mic stuff here. Audio. Default. It should be working. Let me see here. Is your mic on? Possibly, or do I have to give you permission? No, I have unmute mic, mute mic. I think we're good. What the heck's going on? Let me see if I can hear you this way. Maybe. Is that better? I don't know if I can hear you. No, I hear nothing. Do you have your? It's probably in your settings. If your mic is, yeah. Sometimes you gotta do it on the fly. It works out great. Sometimes takes a few minutes. No big deal. It was 65 today in Massachusetts. It's pretty warm. Tone is, I am busy with work, going to skate park, trying to get ready for Christmas. Don, how are you? Made it from Arizona. Had a t-shirt, hoodie, and a coat. Turn this off here. Came outside this morning. Hit the like button. I'd appreciate that for sure. What's up? Well, Mike Jones, how are you? Nice to have you in the chat. Wait a minute, I heard something.
You got me now?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
All right. It was on my end, dude. I had something set wrong. Sorry.
The man that's behind the microphone every time that I see him, and that was what was getting you, right?
Yeah, it was me. I had it set up for doing nefarious things for the Monday show that I participate in, where I can patch in the soundboard and bomb people with drops.
Yeah. That's awesome. So yeah, welcome to the channel here. It's pretty cool to have another Michigan guy on here. Don't usually get to hit the home state that much, all these guys are from everywhere and stuff,
It is, man. It's cool. I watch a lot of your shows on replay, and for whatever reason tonight, like, I'm done. I finished my 2021 season today, and saw the alert come up on YouTube. And you were going live. I'll jump in. I'm going to watch. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So, if you want to explain kind of who you are and what you do, and if you have your podcast, I know that for sure. If that's still, because there's what, you got 2 of them that you do?
Well, one and a half, because Sidetrack's kind of dormant these days.
Yeah.
I started the Sidetrack thing with Andrew Armstead, and then when he passed away, it kind of went by the wayside because it's hard to do. I give you all the credit in the world. You're able to do this solo, and that's hard. It is so hard to do a show even for an hour by yourself and keep it fresh, and you manage to do that, and it's awesome that you do that. And I got hooked up with the Beer Money Pulling Team guys probably about 8 months ago, and invited to be on their Monday night Let's Grow Pulling show as one of the cast members for that. And that's kind of I won't say replace Sidetrack, because I can't go off on that show the way that I did on Sidetrack, but
it's when it's yours solely, it's so much easier to put your personal personal stuff out there, right? When it's all on you. Or if there's, but when you and Andrew kind of had, and when you were similar thought process, it was very similar. When it was different, it was very different, but it was never.
But we had there was an understanding there where we could attack the crap out of each other, and it was okay. Yeah. And now with what we're doing with Beer Money, I haven't felt that latitude necessarily yet. I know I have that leniency with certain people in the cast, but we also know what our audience is, and it isn't what Sidetracks was. So yeah,
and it's a different ball game. I've so like I listen to podcasts while I'm working instead of radio. Podcasts for some reason seem to how can I say this? There's no news really in them, no local news, no like. No, it's an interesting subject that somebody's talking about that I get to listen to. You know what I mean? That's not always. It always seems like more personal information. So I like podcasts myself. I listen to them when I was at the dealership. I listened to them with the earbuds all the time. I'd find, and I'd just leave me alone and get my work done and find something random to listen to. And you were one of those podcasts that I would pick up on every so often. That's like, oh, cool. Listen to you for a few hours, or an hour and a half, whatever the heck it was. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun to do this stuff. And the community is, I'm sure with the pulling community is the same way, right? Like, these guys keep it very, very fresh and good. And, it's a great deal. My videos have been lacking now that I'm self-employed. There's a lot less time for editing. We'll put it that way.
I know that really, man. It can become something you think I'm going to do. This is going to be a 5-minute video, and this is going to be so awesome. I'm going to share this to people. And 40 hours later,
your mind's blown, and it's insane. But I got I bet you I've got 5-10 jobs on video right now that just need to be edited and put out there, and it's like. When I'm like, I got to get home and do the billing. I got a stack of bills here, and I got to go through and bill them out. But so you do the Beer Money Pulling Team podcast, and then you also do other stuff. But that's up to you if you want to get into whatever else you do and other things. And but
the main line for me has always been announcing. That's my bread and butter, and particularly truck and tractor pulling, but. The last couple of years, it's strayed into the diesel drag racing world, and I'm very thankful for those guys to be as accepting of me as they have been. I finished my 21st year behind a mic today, and after the first of the year, second weekend starts season 2020, season 22. So just off we go, right back into it.
Because you started out just. Kind of picking up the mic and going for it, right? I mean, it wasn't nothing that you were
Graduated from college, local club, and everybody did everything. And the same day that I announced for the first time, I actually went sled pulling for the first time, thanks to somebody else's generosity and letting me be on their tractor and do that. So that went on for a couple of years, and I got involved with that club. And then I got heard by some people at some higher level clubs, Thumb Tractor Pulling Association. The president heard me, said, "You're good at this. You're a natural. Let's bring you on." And now here we are 20 years later, where I'm just, my calendar is nuts.
Yeah. And I think what really helps out is you're a performance junkie, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's really what makes it pretty interesting, that you can throw yourself into any and all performance place and be able to, because you love it all, right? I mean,
yeah,
nothing.
I'm a tech nerd. That's my thing. The stories behind the people who are involved in the sport are great, and I appreciate them. But I'm not the guy to elucidate that. I'm not the one to talk about that. I'm the guy who wants to talk about what size valve he's running in his cylinder head, what's his cam timing, how is he doing this. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert that I could go build one, but that's what I enjoy.
But at the same time, that's what really it boils down to. It's like me, I fix things that are broke, right? I'm a mechanic, technician, whatever you want to call it, right? And it's like, you get the opportunity to work on something like this or that, and it's like, yeah, okay, it's just a set of brakes or a set of turbo or a.
But it's not, though. That's the thing. That's what I appreciate about your show, is that you go off in the weeds of the wise wear force, and this is how we can do it better. And that's what I like, because there's that. You're not doing what I do on the microphone. You're not giving the snow job, because people know, right? And and I'm bullshitting myself too there a little bit. I go back in the pit area and I get the feedback that, okay, you're bringing the real story, but I'm being a bit of a smart ass, but that's what I appreciate about your show, is that you're bringing the real thing about what works. And maybe all the time I don't understand it, because I haven't worked on necessarily the pieces of equipment that you have or use the tools, but I appreciate the knowledge and can follow where things are going in the whys and wherefores. And that's awesome.
Well, it's like, there's been, I walk through the pits, right? And I look at tractors and I look at different stuff, it's like, oh, wow, look at that. There's like a 1-inch spacer between that head and that block. Huh. Is that how you had a stroke? Huh. Like I look at the totally different aspect than most people. They look at you look at the physical size of the turbo, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. You're putting more air, and it's like you start breaking stuff down, and it's like it's cool. And like I like to hear to know that those engines are built at such low compression.
Yes.
To start, right? Like you start talking about big diesels, they are less than gas most of the time, I think. I could be way out there, right?
Close to.
A normal diesel's what, 18-1, run happy, life's good, right? 400 psi in the cylinder is like primo if you're doing a compression test, right? You hit 400 psi, you're good to go.
Yeah.
When you start seeing some of them guys starting their trucks and they're hogging 2 cans of ether to even get a blip, that baby's like at what, 8?
It's not
9 to 1, 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's in the 10 to 11 range. Yeah, and I laugh my ass off at the comments at a tractor being double fisted with cans of ether and, oh, you're going to blow it up. It's a piece of junk, blah, 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 blah. And you're talking about, you mentioned 400 pounds of compression in the cylinder. Top diesel super stocks, which is usually what we're seeing getting double fisted with cans of ether, are making 400 psi boost pressure in the manifold. Can you imagine what the cylinder pressure is?
That's what I'm saying. It's all in where you're going to run that thing. It's no different than like I started dabbling back into derbies, right? And I'm looking to build myself an engine. Now I'm a Ford guy. It is what it is. I've always ran Ford.
Dude. I'm with you on that.
always had Fords. Everybody gives me crap. Back when I raced figure eights, they're like, "You're really going to put a Ford in a 77 Monte Carlo?"
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I grew up driving Ford pickups. That's what I have. I have 351 Windsors, 302s, and transmissions sitting here out of trucks that Michigan claimed from me, but left me a good engine and transmission, right? So I mean, that's where I'm at. And they're like, "Why would you do that? They don't hold the heat. They don't do this. They don't do that." I'm like, I never seem to have a problem. But so I'm looking at my compression ratio and actually my cylinder wall clearance, because I'm wanting to run that engine as hot as possible, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to figure out where piston slap starts and go right to that, because you get down to the end of these derbies, right, where and somebody won't start. Well, they're not cranking fast at the end because they're too hot, piston swells, and really start hammering on that cylinder wall, right? So you got to have something wore out when you start. It's no different than tractor pulling mindset. It may run like crap now, but once you hit boost and once you hit water and once you get everything in, you're only looking for this much.
Yes.
That's it. You don't care about this. You don't care about this. You care about right here. I mean,
the equipment guys work on and the things that we're doing in the real world have to exist within a broad range. The stuff we're looking at, whether it's a derby motor or a pulling motor, your operating bandwidth is like this. It is tiny, and you're either in it or you are gone. You're nowhere. You're nobody.
Yeah, absolutely. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal how much people kind of look past that too. Is even the drag racing scene, right, with the diesels and stuff like that. Your bandwidth is a little bit wider, but you're still dealing with gear ratios that you're trying to match to that. Like, the more times you shift and keep that engine at the same RPM range, the better off you are to pull power.
Yeah,
right.
That's the difference that I've run into between the two worlds that I live in, is where the pulling world, you're trying to hit this peak number and then keep it there. And whatever that RPM is, whatever that boost is, whatever it is, you want to stay there as long as you can before the sled can pull you down. Whereas the drag race guys, they're kind of, it's more it's because you got to shift gears. You're doing that rev gain thing. You're trying to accelerate to a curve and then grab the next gear and then accelerate back to that curve. It's the same, but it's not. The goals are a little bit different, but the end result, and the peak numbers, which is what everybody likes to get off on, tend to be sort of similar. But it's not. They don't correlate to each other.
No,
they're doing different things.
It's night and day, which makes that ultimate call out challenge such a great. I like watching it because you get to see how great somebody does here and how poor they do here.
Yeah.
And you're like, how do you, but I mean, as far as like,
that's going to change for next year.
That truck is built for this, right?
Yeah.
And not this. And it's like, so it's kind of neat for me to see, because you're like, oh man, they put up some big numbers on the dyno, but down the pulling sled, where's that? Is that actual torque really there still? Or is that, and a lot of it is to do with tuning and stuff like that, but
that's going to change for next year because they're going to allow 2 trucks now. And I haven't seen the final rule set. I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't necessarily like it, but it's the sandbox we're going to get into. And yeah.
So it sounds like it's going more to a like a team or a garage style.
Yeah, it is.
So Charles Push Garage is going to be bringing 2 trucks, and I'm going to be bringing 2 trucks, and we're going to see who builds.
Or we're going to see what I can build and who can I convince to be my teammate, partner, whatever, bribe artist for the discipline that I'm not comfortable with. And I think that's where you're still allowed to do the 3 disciplines with your own vehicle. There's no one saying you can't, but you're going to be at a disadvantage now. And I don't know that I got to be careful. I don't know. I don't know that I care for it, but I got to be careful how critical I am, because
you can dance
sort
around
of an
that.
employee of it too.
Well, that's the thing, but it's either way, it's a new adventure, and
yeah,
it's definitely something you're going to see. And I've always appreciated that event myself, just from the first ones, really. I mean, they've been around a while, and it was pretty small when it first started. And now
the first year in Utah was kind of small. It was kind of a cult thing. Like if you weren't on the inside, you didn't even know it happened. And then it went to Indy to we can now properly say is Indianapolis Raceway Park again after PRI this weekend. They changed the name back. And then the third year, which was the second year at IRP, it got the ideas that came out. It's like, wow. And then it sort of escaped its own critical velocity for a minute.
We got some new guys in here. This is Charles. He's actually an announcer with a whole bunch of different stuff. Tractor pulling, drag racing, right, for the diesel drag racing scene.
Yep.
And also, what else? And he has a podcast that he does with Beer Money Pulling Team. So
podcasting, photography. If I got the time to aim a camera at you while I'm on mic, I'm going to do that. And photography too.
Yeah, the photos that he takes is pretty awesome. Also, he is a on YouTube. He does do some sweet VHS conversions.
Thank you for mentioning that.
To that, because there is some really cool old school. There's nothing safe about those tractors pulls that he puts up there. That is pretty awesome for the innovators of the tractor pull and scene period. I mean, it's cool to see that stuff because you're like, I don't even like, holy cow, what happens if he actually does get traction with that tractor?
I've got stuff I haven't shown to anybody yet. I got stuff I'm still searching for. I kind of the YouTube side is more the historian piece for me. The parts that I could not be witness to due to my age. So if it's out there on film, and literally I mean film, some of the stuff that you'll find on there was converted off of actual like 8mm film digitized.
There was one from the 80s in Richmond, I know, that was pretty cool. I mean, it's neat to see if you're into old nostalgic tractor pulling and stuff like that.
The Night Train from the 80s film, I actually own that chassis now. And really? Drew and I bought it from Dick Lane, and we still I still need to do something with that, restore it, and get it back out there.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, but I mean, it's cool to have that the knowledge behind it too that you do have, because you've been like I said, you've been a kind of a horsepower guy for as long as I've known you. And walking around the pits and talking to people and doing your research through conversation, which is I mean, you do a lot through conversation for when you're announcing. I don't know how much you really, you can't really look up too much on people in the tractor pulling scene, because they're not very technologically savvy as far as some of them, right?
I'd say they're astronomically technologically savvy, but how much they're willing to share with you, that's
there you go. That's what I mean. You don't get the background on the tractor pullers like you do from a conversation and after the pits and a win or something, and then you get to actually talk to the people a little bit.
The history, the books, the websites, the history on it is few and far between. There aren't too many people trying to document this, and so I try. But I didn't even totally hijack your show tonight. I will hang out as long as people want, but
this is good because I mean it helps me too, because like I said, I haven't had a guest on in a while. Last guy I had on was from Grand Rapids, a tool guy, and he was pretty cool. But yeah, so they but it's been good. I enjoy doing this, and it's cool to get different people interested in different things as well, and I was working on that Duramax, and I swear I don't ever want to touch a 5500 again. I got so many hours on that thing right now. I had four broken manifold bolts, I think, on it, and then 3 broken glow plugs. And it didn't matter what I want to do. They, man.
In my time, I don't know if I want to say where I was, but a previous employer, we would work on them for very certain customers.
Yep.
We hated them, and people think like, oh, it's people are in the assumption that it's a Duramax. It's the same as what's in the pickup truck. Oh, it's an LLY generation, so it's the same. No, it's not. It's different, and it's not different in a good way.
It's close.
It's close. It's close. You can tilt the hood back and get in there at it, which you can't do on the pickup trucks. But a lot of it's different and not good, not in a good way. It's bad.
Fuse panel and fuse box on the passenger side that just covers the whole valve cover. Like they're, you know, and that's the worst part I see is the medium duty trucks. It doesn't matter where you go. The medium duty trucks are like the forgotten soldiers.
Yeah.
You know, because the automotive side of it, you can't really get parts for like you said, that it's a LLY Duramax, right? Like, should be able to get parts for it.
Nope.
Half the Chevys running around are using that engine. No, not so much. You call up any auto parts store, the dealer, they're like, yeah, not for that one.
So I mean, like real talk about that kind of thing. You know, say an 04 and you know they go, it's an LLY. Can I? And this is I don't want to get anybody in trouble here. I'm not going to name names, but back in the can we delete this thing and get it tuned? Well, no, because nothing lines up. Your routing is different. The Y bridge is different. Where the intercooler pipes are different. There's nothing fabricated on the shelf. There's nothing in the kit that's going to bolt from the pickup truck into the medium duty truck. Everything's in a different place. And on top of that, the tuning parameters within the ECU are different because of what it was expected to do from the pickup truck. It just wasn't going to bolt in. And I'd have that phone conversation quite regularly. And and people would get pissed. I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's not the same. I don't care if your VIN code tells you it's an LLY and it's the same. It's not the same.
Yeah. Yeah. The crank may be the base.
The long block was probably the same.
Yeah.
But everything, you know, fuel and air, everything else around it, nope, not the same.
Yeah, there's not the same. And that's the tough part, you know, because I've talked a lot of emissions on my channel. It comes up all the time because it's something we battle, and most of the people in my chat are mechanics, and we're forced to deal with it. There's not the old back in the good old days now of the delete option, right? When it was cool and fun and everybody could do it, you know. It's like now they've cracked down on it pretty hard, and we just kind of move along and suck it up and keep moving forward, you know. And I tell you what, though, if I could ask a manufacturer to do one thing, it would be to get rid of EGR. Just let me dump some DEF in there. I don't care if I got to put 1-to-1 DEF to fuel in that thing. I would much rather do that. And there are companies that are starting to do that now. So that helps, not eating your own waste. I think as a child, we were all told that don't eat your own waste. I wish manufacturers of engines could remember that from their childhood. Like, hey, don't eat your own waste, kid.
Yeah.
You know, it's not good. But Occupant, thanks, Occupant. He threw up a link to your channel.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, but yeah, no, there's still some performance stuff you can do in the race world, though. So it's a great way to.
So far, yes. Yeah, there's been no activity on. Well, I take that back. There has been activity versus certain individuals on behalf of the EPA to curtail that, and I'm going to shut up. I'm going to shut up.
Perfect.
I'm going to shut up.
Perfect.
I'm not going to.
Yeah. We'll just
you want to talk to me one-on-one, we'll talk. But I'm gonna shut up.
No, it's not worth putting out there to.
Generally speaking, the stuff that's not street legal, that's purebred race, they have generally ignored that and been willing to ignore that. But in the cases of a few people, they have not. No one you or I know personally. I'll say that.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful to not know anybody that is dealing with that right at this moment. But no, there's some good stuff, and I enjoy performance in all aspects as well.
Yeah.
Whether I see a drag race, a derby car, a pulling tractor, a pulling truck, a little mini rod, the little mini rods are nuts. I don't know who would sign up to sit with that, and that's insane.
I'll do it. I'll do it right now.
That much horsepower right there in front of your lap. That's insane.
Helmet's right back there, and fire suit's right back there. I'm ready.
He's ready to go. Is ethanol a big thing in the pulling tractors?
Ethanol, no. The methanol,
yes.
Methanol, yes.
Yes, but I didn't know if they were doing like E85 type stuff.
No, and there's been classes where they want to say it's a street legal or a factory original, whatever it is, and while it was built to run E85, it doesn't seem to take off because it always winds up in leading fights.
Yep, gotcha. And that's the tough part, right? Like you never know what. I do see E85 starting to come into methanol, and E85 starting to come into derby quite often.
I imagine
it's kind of cooler temperatures and good stuff comes from it. But I didn't know. You see a lot of drag guys going to it, street race guys or whatever you want to call it, that type of scene going to the
drag and drive guys are huge into it.
Yeah,
whether it's straight up E85 or running methanol with a dual fueler and running pump gas for the drive portion. Yeah, drag and drive, it's big.
Yeah, it's pretty neat to see some of that stuff when you start looking into it. But yeah, so I guess usually, so the thing with the live stream is there's usually a couple hundred views by the time we're all said and done.
I've killed it for you.
And there's always 20 people on the chat, it seems like 20 to 30 people. So there's new people coming and going all the time. But I definitely want to get some of your stuff out there too. Let's see here. I know that there was a tornado by one of my friends, I guess I'll call him, even Kentucky Tech here.
Yeah.
Hometown is destroyed. But his family is safe. That is good that your family's safe. So we'll definitely keep you in our thoughts and your town for sure.
I know your show's engagement driven, dude. So let me do what you gotta do, man. You're the host.
Flicking through some of the stuff. A lot of guys talk within the chat when we when I do have a guest on. So it's pretty good. Uncle Dave is here. Have you been running the Christmas train, Dave? So Dave's an engineer for a private train company where he actually do like a train deal, kind of like Huckleberry Railroad or the stuff up there. So he actually is he does that down in Ohio. So
that's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Privately owned or
it's a privately owned train. It's a privately owned train. And the track I think is too. I think is what he said. Don't quote me on that and hold me to the fire, but it's a private deal where they do a train ride for all holidays. So he actually gets to drive the train, which is pretty cool. And he's been around for a lot of these guys. It's crazy now. It's been, I don't know, a year and a half I've been on here now, and it's like these guys are pretty crazy. CP the Tool Addict's here. Haven't seen him in a while. I haven't popped in on Friday night. So last weekend I went out to Grand Rapids for a family thing, right? And I made it to Grand Rapids and back. I was going to do my live stream at 9. I was at K-Pack Road and 69 at 8:30, right? Get a phone call. My some family members that left the same place had a flat tire. And then they put the spare on, and the spare was flat. They're in the middle. They were on like 127 and M51, which is like
you're 49 minutes, 50 minutes away
from Grand Rapids, and I was Yeah, I was. Wait, yeah. Oh, yeah. So
Less if you do the Michigan speed limit.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's always Michigan factor, right? We're not the Motor City for no reason, right?
No.
Like, I mean, it's one of the good deals, but it's Charles, if I missed it, I came in really late. I heard pulling tractor, NPTAATPA.
Yeah. ATPA it has not been a thing since 2005 when they ran into financial trouble and the assets were bought out by the Mears family and became PPL. And to date, I haven't done anything for them, not because I don't want to. It's geographic based. And I do work for NTPA on occasion, yes.
See, like I'm telling you guys, if you have tractor pulling questions, it's pretty, especially on the history side too, with everything that's going on and how involved you are, especially with the podcast now with Beer Money. They're where are they based out of? Are they out of Iowa?
Jason's in Wisconsin, and the majority of the guys are Central Time Zone. I'm the only idiot who is Eastern. So
that's pretty awesome, though. But no, so we got home, we dropped the boys off with my parents, and me and the wife drove back up to get them because I couldn't find a spare tire that would fit the minivan. I didn't have one. Theirs were flat. There's nothing you can do on a Saturday night at 9:00. And we drove back up, got them, took them to their house, and then drove back home. So it was a pretty long night. I'm not going to lie. And we figured it out because me and my wife kind of had a little bet going because I drove to Grand Rapids and back, and she drove to where they were and then over to drop them off, kind of over by 75 and Saginaw-ish. Yeah. And then she drove home. It was 30 miles difference between the two of us for what I drove to what she drove that night. And it was funny because we were sitting in the car and she's like, I'm like, well, drop you guys off and I'll go back and whatever. She's like, you're not driving alone. She's like, I'll go. You stay with the kids. I'm like, you're not driving alone. What do you think? No. So then called my parents and said, hey, we watched The Boys. Yep, sure. So they did, and we went together so that way we could somewhat stay awake.
Yeah.
So
I've been on the sleep deprivation express too many times people don't realize what we do every summer.
Driving around from place to place and doing what you do is definitely not it's not always, I mean, it's kind of a carnival based
it is.
It's
carnival based, but I still got to hold a day job too. So
that's the thing, you're rolling
a total zombie.
Yeah, it's like I was doing a lot of officiating for other fairs and stuff with the Derby stuff, and we'd it'd be a Wednesday, Thursday night, and you drive up to Chesaning for a race, and then drive home and go to work on Friday. It's like, geez, Louise, it's like
Chesaning's easy. I could do that standing on my head. It's when you go all the way to Mears in West Michigan or something, where you're 4.5 hours away and you get back and, it's 2:30 in the morning. If you're lucky, you fall into bed and then you got to be, ready to rip 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And it hurts, but
what? Back out and go.
I love doing it. I can't imagine my life in another vein. And so I compress it into the worst of that into 3 months of the year, and you just go, all right, I'll sleep in September, which doesn't actually happen.
No,
now it's December and I'm still behind, but it's the lies you tell yourself to get you through. You just do it.
You have to, it's the drive you have for what you love, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's and to say at the same time, it's almost probably throughout those months, it's almost somewhat of a therapeutic experience for you, right? Like where you're like you hit your zone and you're like, yep, this is my jam, right?
Most people are utterly mortified of public speaking. You put that microphone in my hand and that's the calmest I'm ever going to be.
I mean, it's funny how natural you can be, right? Like, I mean, when I first started doing YouTube, right, I'm I'm up here and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. What you know, if I move my hands the wrong way or something, or what do I look like, or what? And now it's like, I just at 8:30, I looked at the clock and I was like, oh, it's Saturday. I got a half hour. I got a half hour to be on. What am I going to talk about tonight? I never have a plan. I go
the train wreck shows are often the best, honestly.
Yeah, like I don't ever have a plan of anything I'm going to say on these things. Like tonight, I sat down. I was like, okay, what I work on this? Oh yeah, I finished up that freaking Duramax, and it was like, okay, I'll throw something on there about it, But for the most part, it's all comment based, and if you can pick somebody up that's on, and like having you on as a guest is phenomenal because it gets you a little exposure, and a lot of these guys are, in some are into tractor pulling more than others, but there's always some, there's always
something you can find. And I don't. It's not, my channel's not just going to be strictly tractor pulling based. I did something here a couple of weeks ago. Like my great grandfather was a tool and die guy, and there's all kinds of stuff here in the house in the basement that's kind of weird. I did a 5-minute on these. This is World War II vintage files.
Yeah,
I went through the couple boxes I got and just kind of talked about them. Yeah. It's just there's cool stuff. I try to, because I can't be one lane anyway. I'm too ADHD, so I got to spread out too.
Yeah, I can't. That's the other ththing. It's like the tools are a great distraction from the work, and the work's a great distraction from the tools that I buy, because I am a horrible. I'm horrible. I buy tools. I don't know. I need something. And it's like, focus is you just keep focusing on what you want to buy next. And that's like that one. I was talking to these guys about that Pro Max kit. They got that 14-inch. It's awesome. That kit is, man, if I ever drill another manifold bolt, I'm not doing it without that thing, because it's beautiful.
Get into it, man. Let's do you led with that. Let's do that.
It centers the freaking it centers everything up. So when you drill the hole, the first hole, it's dead center, because you're off of 2 other manifold bolts. And then like on the big ones, you set it up yourself. So you put 3 studs in, and then you lock it down with Allen screws. Then you move it to where you need to drill one. You drill it, and they actually sell the bushing for the tap. You can't even put the tap in crooked. It's phenomenal. Oh my gosh. I've never in my life had drilled out a bolt as easy as that.
They do something where it'll locate it for the up pipe bolts as well.
Yeah, they do for some. I don't know if it's for. Yeah, it's on Pro Max, but yeah, I think they have jigs for like the EcoBoost. They have one for Mack, Volvo, and Detroit's. For the turbo pedestal, they have one bolt the turbo pedestal and actually can drill the studs out of a turbo pedestal. They're making them for a bunch of stuff. This company is. They're out of Pennsylvania, which
up pipe stuff is the bane of the existence in the diesel world anyway. I mean, regardless of platform, if you can find a way to get it into, well, not the Cummins, but for the V8, the hot V stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
If you can come up with a way for that, that's
phenomenal. I mean, it's crazy because like you said, up pipes and the EGR, right? If it wasn't for EGR coolers and EGR cooler failures, I bet you 15% of the diesel market is EGR related. And then the other 60% is all after treatment related. So that gives you 75. Now you got 25% that you're actually working on ball joints, brakes, tires, normal stuff, right? Like it doesn't give you much room. If it wasn't for emissions in general, the diesel industry pretty much had it figured out, and gas too. I mean, it boils. It definitely gets us some work. That's for sure.
I've got a buddy I'm not going to give away too much or anything really, but I got a buddy who's a diesel. He's an engineer for a tier 1 supplier on one of the big 3 programs for diesel exhaust emissions and what they have to create for the next generation of trucks that are coming. And he shared with me yesterday a little bit about what goes into it and the design of it and the size of it and the weight of it. And it's just like, I own a 7.3 for a reason. Okay. I own a 7.3 for a reason.
And the worst part is you just said engineer, but there's also, he has to be a chemist at the end of the day.
He doesn't, because he's manufacturing, but I get your point. You're 100% correct. Yes.
It's like you start talking to these guys and it's like, you start breaking it all down and it's like, oh my gosh, it's crazy how much goes into it. You're trying to, and I always try to really push the death is not the devil. Death is the answer to a big problem with emissions. If you can beat it with death, you win, because it's a teeter-totter.
If you're going to tell me I can do whatever the hell I want to in front of that, and all I got to do is squirt this blue stuff in there, and it's going to make it okay. All right.
So you're in a performance, right? And performance, you have that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Right? Where that sweet spot is no real smoke, right? Where your air fuel ratio is just perfect. You're not over fueling, you're not under fueling, and that's where you create the most NOx. And NOx is what DEF takes care of. So the less NOx, you either make smoke or NOx. That's where it's a teeter-totter like this. So if you're making no smoke and you're getting good power out of it, you're making a boatload of NOx. You're dumping DEF in like crazy, but your engine's running right there. You know what I mean? So
I'm laughing only because my pulling brain goes, we're smoking like crazy, so we're not making NOx. My diesel drag race guys are going, we're clean exhaust because we pump nitrous to it to the hilt, but we're making NOx, so now I got to spray DEF.
That's it. You know what I mean? So there's a teeter-totter there, right?
Yeah, there is.
And EGR is the devil. I mean, I truly believe that EGR is the worst thing for any engine that can be.
You want to fill your intake manifold with carbon and jam up your valves, you just go ahead and EGR that thing, because you make a mess.
In what, the 40s, the 50s, they had oil bath air filters. They knew it was important to keep clean air, even if you had to use oil to clean the air before you put it in your engine, not to dust it, right? And now you're just sending raw exhaust back in your intake.
Well, it gets right. Even, that's it's a sidebar, but that was foretold by the diesel performance industry themselves. Everybody went to these K&N type oil impregnated filters, and then slapped them on turbocharged engines where it sucked so hard it pulled the oil right out of the filter into the mass airflow sensor that does what? Controls your fuel map and your emissions. Fail.
Yep. And it's a wild thing, right? Like, all things have failures, all things have wins, and people do what they do. It's fun to see what type of thought process goes in there, right? Like, I mean, as far as people trying to make performance and still fit within what needs to be done too, as far as like what the stock stuff, I got a 2012 pickup, right? It's still, knock on wood, still original. 130,000 miles is all I got on it, but it's still all original. I run it hard when I run it. I don't let it idle too much. I did have an EGR code come up the other day, a flow code, so I'll probably do for an EGR cooler. But I mean, I enjoy the power. I left a 7.3 and went to a 6.7.
Oh, they're night and day. I won't argue there.
I missed a 6.0. I missed the 6.4.
No, you didn't. You didn't miss them.
And I really didn't miss much, right? Like, I've worked on those other two, and I was like, okay. And then the 6.7 came out, and I was like, okay. And then it was 2012, because that was the second. I think that was the second generation of the 6.7, kind of like they had it figured out with the first few years, and then that was the 6.7 that kind of came in at the end, right? with DEF and everything was worked out. I felt very comfortable in 2012 saying, "Yep, we're going to be good," because even on the heavy side, though, we had a company I worked at. We had a 2010 Kenworth W9 with a ISX 15 in it, and it was EGR cooler every 100,000 miles. Every 100,000 miles. They kept it to 500,000, traded it in, and then it was a 2013, 12, 13. I don't. It came with DEF. We'll put it that way. So it was final tier 4, with DEF, and it was 500,000 miles. We did a set of brakes on it, and we had one DEF dosing valve that took a crap on it. Other than that, it was pretty much.
Yeah.
Worries free as far as that goes. Now we have the DEF header issue, which is national back order. People I seen a guy had a DEF header out of something completely different that he got wired in to a crane, and his DEF tank was an Igloo cooler that was written on it, "Do not drink. This is DEF." Like it was an Igloo, but he had the sending unit all sitting in the Igloo cooler, so he had a DEF tank, and because the DEF headers are so hard to find, he found one out of something different and made it work so they could keep using their crane. And right now, it's parts supply chain is by far the biggest struggle.
It is. I'm not gonna pretend that these engines don't have problems, because they do. But the thing that I ran into is you get into this enthusiast world where you have to have head studs, you have to have delete, you have to change your 2015.7 bullshit filter. There's all these things you got to do because that's the enthusiast world, and those guys convince themselves of their righteousness, and they don't realize that for every one of those engines that they've so-called bulletproofed, there's like 1,000 of them that have never been even laid a finger on that are still running to 500,000 miles. So
yeah, there's definitely a flip side of that coin. People definitely, it's good to see that though. When you see the best one is the best truck that I ever could tell anybody to find was like an old 6.0 or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like a 6-liter even. If the old man had a camper and he camped, if that old man left in the wintertime in the fall and didn't come back until spring, that was the truck to buy.
Yeah.
It had plenty of long haul loaded miles, and she was taken care of. And then it sat in a barn summertime, didn't run very much. She probably had a car. You know what I mean? Like, that was the truck that I would tell people that's the one you want. I don't care if it's got a bunch of miles on it. It was hauled with a load, long hauls, or that's the one you want. You don't want
that's the biggest problem I've run into with my personal 7.3. I haven't done a lot to it. It's got an ancient super chip 2-position programmer on it, or chip, and I'm not a programmer, an honest to God chip that goes in the ECU. And it's turbo back straight piped. Everything else about the truck is, the clutch is not stock. I had a South Bend clutch put in it. Everything else about the truck is stock. The problem I've run into is it is low miles. It's a 99. It's actually a 98. It's a 98 Super Duty. It's a 99 model year, but it's a 98. It's an early one. I don't drive it in the winter. I don't hardly drive it at all. It's got 125-ish thousand miles on it. Biggest problem I got with the thing is that it sits too damn much.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If they're not cycling, they're not. It's definitely
the problems I run into it are stupid problems that are self-inflicted because I don't drive it enough.
And that's what most things are, right? And it's something, but it's something you want to take care of, right? Because it's what you like, right?
I love it, and it's got some superficial rust that I'm going to have to address in a year or two here with the body shop before I lose the body. But otherwise, the thing's 100% solid, and I can't replace it because it'd be a $70,000 truck now to option one out like it is, and I can't get one that's going to be manual trans, manual hubs, manual T case.
Nope. You're done with all that. Like that's
Yeah.
all out of the loop. That's what's insane. Is somebody said, oh, you should, my truck's almost 10 years old. It'll be 10 years old this spring. I bought it. It was 2012 we were planting when I got it. So this spring, it'll be exactly 10 years old from when I got it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, I'm pretty content with it. Like, I don't need to, I kind of like it. I ordered it. It's the first truck I ever had that was new. And it was like, but I was single, had no kids, and, working as many hours as I wanted. And
that's how I came by that one.
That's a real easy place to be in life and walk into a dealership and buy a brand new vehicle. Right.
Yeah.
Not much as far as the bills, and you're working as many hours as you want. Yeah, that's easy to make that payment. But when you start getting more responsibilities, right? It changes things. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's been good though. Like I've been happy with my truck. I've been happy with all sorts of. I had an 02 before that, right? 2002, 7.3, and it was good to go.
That's the other reason I don't want to let mine go is that it's one of the early ones, which got the forged rods in it. So I'm not letting that thing go.
Yep. Yeah, because I think at 03 they changed the rods or something like that, or late 02 or 01.
Double O's actually. I think the 98 or the early 98, 99s had the forged, and then after that went to the powdered metal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, there's some because my brother's got a 94.5, which is the first
OG
OBD1 OBD before OBD2 was ever even thought of type of 7.3 sitting there, and he's it's manual, everything's 4-door long box. It's
that one's got the ZF5 in it.
Yeah.
Yep. You cannot, and then anybody who's wondering, so here's some pulling history for you. The early LB7 Duramaxes also had the same ZF6s that it's in my 7.3 and the Power Strokes had. And we found out, courtesy of Dirty Hooker Diesel, that you can feed in the neighborhood of 1,500 horsepower to one of those and they won't break. So you'll have to upgrade your clutch, but the trans can take it. So you're good to do whatever you want to
do. That's pretty awesome. That's in the neighborhood of 1,500.
Yeah, you're not gonna break it. You're good.
You're okay. Yeah, there's
the only reason that cheap hooker wound up going to open driveline is, one, the rules changed to allow it, and number two, we couldn't find a clutch that would fit in the bell housing that would hold the horsepower we're feeding it. It wasn't the transmission would break; the clutch simply wouldn't hold. So it had to go to open bell housing and multi-disc.
That's insane. That's crazy. There's a lot of that's the crazy part. You start looking at some of that stuff, and it's like there's just so much power made.
When that truck was first constituted, it was still a ZF6 trans truck, and I think he had a triple disc in it. It would bang. The problem we would run into is it would bang the rev limiter at, I think, 6,000 on a Duramax, which in 2011 no one was doing.
Yeah.
And the feedback loop through the ECU, through the sensors, was changing the fuel map too slowly to actually catch up to what the clutch was trying to do. And it just became a death spiral. You couldn't launch it. It didn't matter how you tried to drive it. The sensitivity wasn't there. And in subsequent years, going to open driveline and multi-disc clutch and having the standalone system on it where it would have that data point per second to pick up what was going on, then it became drivable again. But there was a year or two there where it just was not drivable.
Yeah, it just wouldn't. Yeah, you couldn't make it talk fast enough, right?
No, you couldn't make it talk fast
slow lag. It's wild how much sensitivity it really takes, when you start going to that stuff, because it's all we deal with it all the time now, right? Like in equipment, on the equipment side, it's the same. We're using CAN bus on everything now. I mean, and the truck side, I always throw it out there to the truck guys, to the automotive guys. It's like automotive gets dumped on everything first.
Yeah.
And then they move it to heavy truck. Then it goes into construction and ag.
Yeah.
It's kind of how everything falls out, right? So originally with the emissions that diesel guys have had to deal with, those automotive guys, man, they took the licking.
Mm-hmm.
And then the heavy truck guys, they got thrown into the licking for a while, but it was a very short term of the DPF only for them. When the 6.4 came out, they had the 6.4, and then they kind of went right to the 6.7, right? Well, there was only it was a short span of that just filter, just the DPF, which was a temporary. I think that was a Band-Aid on a bullet hole that they just needed to bridge a gap to get to the next level of having DEF and SCR and everything else, right? But there was a couple years there. There's about 4 years, I think, 4 maybe 5 years of only DPFs being out before they dropped the SCR systems on them, which it's like it's crazy how much you've had to learn in a short amount of time. Going from in 99 2000 when I started working on equipment, cracking lines was a thing.
Yes.
Cracking lines, finding bad injectors. It's still a thing that I do, but it's not nearly as common. I hook up my laptop to it and cut injectors out.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you just can't do anymore. And it's definitely expensive to keep up with technology. Buying that laptop was wow,
Oh, I can't imagine. And
I can hook to most things, So
I think you've addressed this on the show before, and I forget the answer. So the software is that subscription based? You're paying for updates every month?
Not every month.
Okay.
So it's about 20. I think it's $2,600 a year. After you buy it, but automotive, that's $500 a quarter.
Yeah.
To keep up with automotive with a Snap-on scanner. So, is it really much different? Not really.
No, it's not.
You try to pass it along, but it's tough.
And I feel like a cheapskate for bitching about the what I had to spend to keep my video editing software and everything up to.
Well, I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, you gotta. But I mean, it's all in. It's really. It is what it is. It's. I'm going out there to fix a guy's. It's all in perspective, right? Like this guy's machine that he's out there charging somebody. I had a guy with this is a perfect scenario. I had a guy with a wood chipper, right? And I don't remember if it was a Bandit or a Mobark. Either way, they're up by Wynn, Michigan.
Okay.
Or there, and then they're about 15 minutes north of there, closer to Mount Pleasant. The other one is.
Yep.
I don't know which one's. It doesn't matter.
I don't remember. Yeah, they're both up there.
But either way, right? It's 3 hours ish from us. And this guy was like, "Hey, can you do a regen on my wood chipper? I got a Perkins in it. I need a regen done. Can you do it?" At the time, I couldn't do it. I didn't have the software. I didn't have anything, right? He's like, "I will pay you whatever you want to do this, because do you understand what I have to do to get this thing regened?"
Yeah.
He had to drive it up there, drop it off, drive back home, drive back up there a couple days later, pick it up, and drive back home. That's 14 hours of driving and 3 days worth of lost time on a machine, right? That's where his "I'll pay you whatever you want." He charged me $2,000. I don't care. That's what he told me. He's like, "If you can do it today, you can charge me $2,000. I don't care. I'll pay it." He said that'll just save me in the downtime. He said I'm going to lose $7,000-8,000 in the week that it's going to take me to get it all done.
And that's the difference. That's the difference that I see too. Like the respect that I have for what you and your viewers do. This is your livelihood. This is what you do. You have to do this.
Yeah.
The stuff we've been talking about tonight, as far as me, I get to do this. This isn't my day job. This isn't what pays the bills. I get to do this. I'm lucky. So I definitely get it and have a huge respect for the investment and the experience and the expertise that goes into it.
Yeah, because it's funny because we all look at performance a little differently, right? And everybody in this chat loves performance. Who doesn't wrench on something and love performance, right?
Right.
Like that's our heck yeah, we want to make it go faster, stronger, bigger, whatever, all that stuff.
Yeah.
What can we do to tweak this to make it, as simple as you go out to a job site and the guy's like, this excavator, just a little bit, it just doesn't feel, could you get a little more out of it? Oh yeah, we can turn a few screws, get her up. He's like, oh, she digs great. Now, everybody loves that little extra, right? And it's like,
I spent 10 years building hot rod chainsaws. Why? Because it was fun and it was fast.
I mean, it
didn't make any money for me. No, it cost me money. But in the end, what a riot.
Why do we do what we do, right? It's awesome. But even like that, and then you go out there and the next guy down the road, he's like, man, this thing's just not right. The excavator, and the excavators are so wild because you get a dirt baling crew that just wants to bale dirt.
Yeah.
And they're just hogging, right? And then you got the pipe setter.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wants that fine control.
Oh, yeah.
Now that pipe setter gets in that same machine that you just tweaked up for the dirt baler. And he's like, this thing's all, I can't deal with this. Like, can you, so you dial her back down, make her just nice and flow and everything's good. And it's like, it's pretty.
We used to, I used to work for the now pretty much defunct John Carlo back in the 2000s, early 2000s. That was my out of college job, and loved underground. That was my jam. Loved how we could freestyle, and we knew like there was a foot of depth limit.
Yeah.
Where, because the Komatsus were faster in terms of cyclic.
Yeah.
The cats had more power. So there would be this crossover point of a certain depth, and I forget now what it was. I want to say it was in the neighborhood of 12 feet, where suddenly the Komatsus were slower. Now the cats were faster because they had the power.
Gotcha.
And yeah, you're just playing that game, and you're trying to match the bid and make that money. And yeah, I totally get it, man. Totally.
And it's hilarious because you hear that from all these guys, like, and it's a Michigan thing too. The Komatsu cat, like, what they do and how they do it, I think, because I've talked to some guys that have moved out of state and down south and stuff, and they're like, yeah, they don't really care how fast it bails or how, they just want it to make sure it's consistent, because they have a full year. We're talking 7 months to lay pipe. That's all you get.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
compressed year, and then we're dealing with, and there, I suppose there's some geologic differences as well.
Yeah. Because our depth is different too.
And maybe that's a Southeast Michigan thing where we're at, just the clay that we're dealing with. Where you better bring the muscle if you're going deep.
Yeah, that's the worst part. It's like you get into some of this stuff. It's like it just doesn't.
You can go to Kentucky and okay, it's harder to dig because it's rock, but then you're not using an excavator, you're using a bomb. So
yeah, that's the thing. Like we did. There was a job down in or was it in Kentucky or Tennessee? It doesn't matter either way, I guess. But we took some concrete breakers down there from up here that were good to go, and got down to a certain point, and it just wouldn't break the rock. And we're like, what do you do? I went to the local Komatsu dealership, and I was talking to those guys because I had to pick up some parts or whatever, and they're like, "You're trying to get through with what size hammer? No, not down here.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're in the wrong section." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Oh yeah, we run out 400s with hammers all the time, 600s with hammers. That's what you need to get through that stuff."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Holy cow! I've never seen a hammer on a 600. Like, what is that?" Right? Like these guys are crazy.
Yeah, that doesn't. For those who don't know, that doesn't happen up here. We don't do that. We don't have to do that.
No, if there's
we'll bring in a 385 and we'll go, 40 feet deep.
Yeah.
But it's going to be with a bucket, 48-inch bucket, and we're going to make it happen on a pretty quick cycle time.
Yeah, we have clay. and it's okay. We'll
the biggest issue is going to be the cave in. You're going to you're only worry about the guy who's got to go down there and set that pipe.
Yeah, how many trench boxes do we have to stack to make that work? God. Right? Like it's
deepest I ever saw. We did a sewer job down on Jefferson, down in Detroit, and we were 35 feet down. And I just would look over the side and like, oh my.
Yeah, it's insane, right? Like, I mean, yeah. And down there we get to experience some definitely interesting jobs. I was in Dearborn the one time, and it was I think it was a 90-footer, and it was at the sewer treatment plant that was going to Dearborn. And I had to they took a Manitowoc crane, and I got in a basket. They lowered me down into the hole, and the man lift was at the bottom of the hole, all the way extended up for me to work on it at the catwalk. And they lowered me down like a 90 feet. It was like 100 and some feet deep. It was insane because they lowered me down onto the catwalk. Then I stepped off the catwalk onto the man lift, and then I could try to diagnose it. And it was I'm on the phone with JLG and trying to figure out if this controller's bad or what's going on. But it was nuts. But I'm like, I walked off a catwalk onto a 90-footer that was all the way extended.
That's crazy.
I was like, this is not.
If that doesn't give you the heebie-jeebies, there's something wrong with you.
It was not. And I mean, everything's just 2x4s anchored to this concrete wall. And I'm like, I'm a large guy, and I just heights and ladders and things like that. I like solid ground for being a large, there ain't nothing, not one of these guys that can twinkle toe around and be like, oh yeah, that'll hold me. No, I need a little more than that.
There's limits. I spent enough time as a commercial carpenter getting on scissor lifts and going up, and you do get, if it's your day job where you're in thing, 40 hours a week, there's some desensitization that goes on, but there's a limit to that too.
Yeah, well, it's like I look at these man lifts and it says 500-pound limit. Okay, I'm 3. No, nobody can go with me.
Yeah,
and I have to be careful how many tools I actually take.
Yeah,
because now I'm pushing the limit, right? Like, and then it's a little windy or something. Nah, I'm out. I'm good.
Yeah, windy sucks. Windy sucks. I'll agree with you.
Yeah, I'm all set. But in that hole, there was no wind, so it was pretty cool, pretty stable. But when I stepped on, it still went down.
Yeah,
a few inches to sag because of the weight, and it's
we get those stories every spring and every fall around here where there's a cave in.
Yeah,
even if they did everything right, there's a cave in, and you just that's always in the back of your mind, and that's why I was never, as much as I loved underground, I was never comfortable going. I was all right, 2 boxes stacked. All right, I'm okay. I'll go down there. Yeah. More than that, just it got in my head. I don't know if it did anybody else. Everybody can say they're Billy Badass and want to front, but me, no, I was not okay.
Yeah, I'm not scared to say when enough's enough.
Yeah,
I'm definitely okay. It's like the mini rod thing, right? Yeah, no. I don't need
I'm stupid. I will do that.
I don't need to strap that much horsepower between my 2 feet and hold her wide open. Man, it's just nuts.
Sooner or later, somebody's gonna be dumb enough to let me try it, and I'm gonna do it. And I will bring the GoPro to your show.
I'll never forget seeing I don't even know what year it was, but Mr. Twister, he blew up at Armada at the fair, one of his Hemis. I'm pretty sure he had Hemis in it at the time, but it was just insane how much and how far it went.
Which would be rare because he only had Hemis for a very narrow period of time during those days.
It would have been, I would think it would have been like in 98-ish.
I'll have to look because I'm pretty sure I've got most of the footage from that time. I'll have to look. I don't remember it, but I do remember the stories of it happening.
It grenaded right at about the 200-foot line.
Was that in the fair or was that in the firecracker?
At fair.
At fair, okay.
At fair. During fair. There was that one, and then I don't know whose it was an international that grenaded too at the fair. There was 2 of them that actually came apart at the fair.
Gosh, I don't remember that.
We always get, but the thing with the fair is it's always after Bowling Green. and everybody's got them leaned right out from Bowling Green, right? I mean,
yeah.
You don't take.
I remember Aaron's John Deere Pro Stock. Well, it was probably like 05 or 06, collapsed on the front end, just smashing it, and front tires went to the moon.
Bounced off. Yeah. There was an engine failure though back then too. Maybe that was in the late 90s, somewhere in there. There was a couple that I remember. But yeah, those are the heartbreaking moments now more than then.
Oh yeah.
For me is because it just like if you want to see somebody just throw a briefcase full of hundreds in the air, watch one of them engines go, right?
That was a joke. Somebody made a sarcastic post. They so the PRI show was this weekend, Thursday, Friday, and today, down in Indianapolis, Performance Racing Industry Expo, and D&J Performance had their booth set up, and they had some leather couches around a glass top coffee table. And the post came up on Facebook yesterday from somebody who happened to see it, and they were making a joke about the leather couches.
Yeah.
The casting couch jokes.
Yeah.
But in the picture, you can see the coffee table. And my comment to that was, are you making a post about the couch and making a joke? Or are you seriously wondering about how the coffee table came into being? And what the coffee table is the bottom from cam center line down, what's left of it, a Cummins block. What rod still managed to stay attached to the crankshaft, and about, so I'll say 5/8 of one piston.
Yeah,
I know where that came from, and that was from a 2,000 plus horsepower dyno shot, trying to make something on a Cummins, and it just, it's like you're making a joke about the couch, but you're missing in the foreground a really neat story.
Yeah, that's the cool part that people and a very neat and expensive story, right?
Yeah, really expensive. That was a lesson learned.
The worst part is the time, effort, and part, right? But the time and effort and research to get there costs way more than the parts.
Yeah,
on any of it, right? Like, I mean,
there was hours of weeks and months of design on the hard parts, and then on top of that, preliminary dyno testing to sort out the tune to get it to that state, because it was I believe it was the common rail engine, to get it to that state, and only for it to just launch itself and just go,
yeah.
But it did lead to the Executioner design from D&J ultimately, which is now the world's quickest diesel. So I mean, it had a benefit, but in terms of expense and time and hours, that was an expensive. That's an expensive coffee table.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. People don't appreciate as much as It's like my brother's got an old drive shaft out of his truck that he had back forever ago when I guess that would have been the Eastern Michigan truck and tractor pulling back when they kind of started. And he had a truck that he spun the drive shaft right into a pretzel, right? Still sitting on the barn wall. And that was from forever ago, right? Like, you save silly stuff like that.
So speaking of that, everybody knows from UCC 2019, the big fire that Dirty Hooker Diesel had on the dyno, right?
Yep.
Turbo exploded. Here's parts of the turbo wheel.
Yeah.
From that. I found them underneath the truck on the dyno. I grabbed them. I saved them. They're here on my desk.
Yeah. They're sweet paperweights, right? With a story. Yeah. That's really all it is. I've got a guy that used to work in, I think it was Louisiana or somewhere down there on ships. I've got a valve.
Oh, look at that.
I've got a valve out of a ship engine.
As a Fairbanks Morris engine?
I have no idea. He never really told me the story on it, other than he's like, I got a very large valve that you're more than welcome to have.
Wow.
And it sits down on the floor. It's nothing. I mean, it's
no, that's insane. Cool. I don't care what anybody says. That's cool.
I mean, yeah, it's nuts. And like, that's, I don't know. Like, it's just cool stuff that you come across, right, every once in a while. And he worked on ship engines. He's like, yeah, I saved this for a while. Thought it was cool. Set it on my bar. And he's like, yeah, you can have it. Whatever. It's no big deal now. And, since then he's passed away and stuff like that. And it's one of those things that it's just a cool thing that you have sitting around, right? And
beyond that, even, went to Poland, New York, Langford, New York, and had a 3-engine modified, and the right side planetary exploded. Franklin Planetary. I saved all 3 planets out of it. I mean, I've got the picture of where they're flying in midair. All 3 of them are visible. I grabbed gears. I saved them. He wasn't going to do anything with them.
No, he's going to throw them in a scrap bin or whatever garbage. He's like, he just left them there, right?
I've got a rod that's been thrown out of an alcohol super stock upstairs. Just these offerings to the gods of speed. It's cool.
And that's what makes us junkies, right? Cool stuff that we can collect and see. I was at an estate sale, and I found a hat.
Oh, yes.
This is from 1987, and it's the 150th anniversary hat for John Deere. Like, why not buy that for $3, right?
Yeah, no, 100%.
I mean, the foam is disintegrating inside the hat, but
you're not going to wear it, but you can show it off.
What a perfect shelf setter, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's random stuff. I don't know. It's weird.
I'm with you on that.
But I think I'm going to wrap it up. About an hour and a half. It's been a great chat.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take up your whole show on you.
No, I'm sure. I mean, they've threw out your website a few times on here. You're definitely.
And thank you to you guys. I appreciate that.
So it's been a great chat, and anytime that you got a chance to come on, more than welcome. We'll have you on. We can talk about the podcast and everything else to try to help everybody's platform, because that's a huge deal, right? Like, just spreading the word.
It is.
The community you live in is, as far as the pulling community, is pretty tight knit. As far as that goes, and it's
found out in the last 10 days because of stuff.
Yeah, it's nice that it's nicer though if you can expand that, right? Like, any way, shape, for a couple of guys on here, a couple of guys on there, and Occupant says this is a great show. AgTech says great show. Thanks to Phil and Charles. Enjoy the rest of your week. AgTech says stay safe. You too. Don't get stuck this week, AgTech. He got stuck in Saskatchewan. He lives in Saskatchewan, right? 2 pictures within 4 hours of his service truck buried in snow. He sent me. He's like, I'm done with it.
Saskatchewan's a big area, and I realize the chance of this is really small. But if you know Sean Ellerton, the Canadian redneck, say hi to him for me, because I love that guy. He's a UCC competitor with a 6.0 power stroke. Hell of a dude. I realize we're talking like chances of 0, but
you never know.
There's guys up there who are awesome.
It's a big place, and AgTech 45. He's an awesome dude, and he works for a John Deere dealer up there, and he works on a lot of the newest stuff. We'll put it that way, because they send some brand new combines up there to be tested on long acres and stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. He got to see one of the first X9s, I believe.
Real nice.
So yeah, it was pretty. He's got some pretty cool stuff. So, all right. Well, we will check you guys later, and you can stay on here for a minute, Charles.
Right.
We'll end the broadcast right now, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great week, everyone.